So I've been following Spiritfarer for the better half of a year, and having been shadow dropped by Nintendo during one of their indie press conferences in August, I immediately stopped what I was doing and threw money at the TV screen until the game turned on. It's funny, I've seen a decent amount of buzz for this game, but nowhere near as much as I was expecting. So, looks like it's my job to sell you on one of the most emotional, well-designed, and truly impactful indie games I've ever played, and one that would help me cope with a truly personal loss in real life. Alright, so we're gonna kill two birds with one stone here, poor choice of words given the subject matter, and cover a small amount of Spiritfarer's opening hour or so to establish its world and gameplay mechanics simultaneously. In all honesty, there's not too much to spoil here aside from our initial motivations, so for those worried I'm going for a deep dive into this game's plot, you can rest easy. Our protagonist's name is Stella. She's got a big goofy hat that's freaking adorable and a fluffy white cat named Daffodil that is even more so. Looks like we're— oh my god, what the fuck is that? You know, for a game with a dedicated hug button, this isn't exactly what I had in mind when it came to an introduction. This is Karen. Sharon. Sharon. This is Sharon, the ferryman for the River Styx, according to Greek mythology. Pretty sure I killed him in God of War Chains of Olympus, but whatevs. His job involves ferrying lost souls to the afterlife, and today is his last day. The old codger's finally calling it quits, making this Stella's first day on the job. So thanks for the heads up, Dick. First things first,
you're gonna need a bigger boat.
Your first encounter with a potential passenger comes fairly early on. Having escaped from 2012's Journey, the spirit not only straight up recognizes us, but appears to be our tutorial guide. She also mentions the Everlight attached to our belt, even though our eyes are up here. The Everlight is basically your everything tool, turning into just about anything we could possibly need, save for a new frickin' boat. Oh, there's one. So before sprucing up our new digs, the spirit known as Gwen is welcomed aboard. From here, your adventure begins proper. That is to say that Gwen essentially leads you from island to island, running some pretty rudimentary errands to get you up to speed on how exactly this whole Spiritfarer thing is supposed to work. That said, the opening hour or two here is fairly rote, with only one passenger to interact with on the ship and literally only one thing to do while you chart a course for the next island. It wasn't until Gwen guided me to construct a few unique structures that the possibilities started to open up a bit. So after a while, I was politely informed that I'm gonna probably need a kitchen, but unfortunately I lacked the proper resources to build one, specifically bright jelly. And according to Gwen, I'm gonna need to find a swarm of jellyfish which appear as a dark patch of pure fear on my map.
Sucks to be me right now.
Actually, it's not that bad. Upon arriving, a sort of mini-game had me jumping from my two small structures to grab the required ingredients and scrounge up a bit of money in the process. Nice. And now it's time to learn how to cook. Pretty simple. Ingredient goes in the oven, timer spins down, and in less than 10 seconds, I have 3 full bowls of popcorn from literally just throwing ears of corn into a hot box.
Not scientifically possible!
Seems to do the trick, though. Supposedly, Gwen has a proclivity towards comfort food and doesn't like to eat the same thing twice in a row. She also super loves coffee, and luckily there's a Starbucks on every island, so I think we're all set. To spare you the play-by-play, the game quickly establishes itself as a resource management sim, not unlike a 2D version of something like Subnautica if you're desperate for a comparison. Although survival doesn't take center stage, in fact, it's not even present for the performance. Rather, exploration and tending to your ship and its passengers tend to make up the bulk of the experience. There's a wonderful flow to Spiritfarer. Upon finding unique spirits, you're introduced to new gameplay mechanics that can eventually open up different areas of the map or even change how you interact with certain events and weather patterns altogether. What may seem like a minor interaction with a thunderstorm could change drastically when applying one character's knowledge of literally catching lightning in a bottle, which can then be crafted into different objects, traded, or sold for a tidy sum. Spiritfarer also harbors some aspects of a Metroidvania. You'll need to discover new abilities to gain access to a number of different areas. The only way to do that is by spending a specific currency called an obol at one of several shrines located across the map. Doing so usually provides you with a navigational upgrade. As a result, obols are now the most important thing in my entire life.
What?
It's an inanimate f***ing object.
You're an inanimate f***ing object!
Docking your ship at one of many islands on the map defogs the immediate area around it, usually revealing a separate point of interest. Also, your boat can't travel at night because it apparently becomes too dark to navigate.
Okay.
Without spoiling too much, you'll eventually need to upgrade your ship to slice through certain environmental hazards, while simultaneously accommodating more passengers and structures designed to make use of the plethora of resources you'll come across in your travels. These unique stations will have you smelting ores, housing sheep, and of course planting crops for your passengers. What's sort of fascinating is how the majority of the structures require a brief amount of player interaction in order to make the most of your selected resource. For example, in the sawmill, you'll be required to actually plot the cut in order for a greater yield of planks, and that cut changes as you bring aboard different types of logs. So just for perspective's sake, the most complicated thing you'll be doing is playing Guitar Hero to foster your plant's growth, and even then, that's entirely optional. Plus, there's only like one song you can play for them anyway, so... You'll be able to purchase resources and seeds from this greedy sick son of a bitch on the reg, though navigating towards salvage may also provide a nice haul of similar resources. I will say, my problem with experiences of this nature tends to be the end game, when you're ferreting out incredibly specific resources to buy one incredibly specific item in order to do one incredibly specific thing to advance the plot. Throughout the majority of the game, you'll have plenty of options on how you'd like to progress, but as the story nears its end, those multiple paths slowly transform into a singular hallway, all but exposing the genre's errand-heavy nature. I need this person to give me this thing to unlock this ability so I can go back to this island and get up here so that I can find this person who will give me another thing that might get me somewhere else if I can find another one.
Jesus.
But despite its flaws, what's most impressive about Spiritfarer is how it's able to tie each of its gameplay mechanics together to make a cohesive whole. You'll receive a number of quests, some of them simple, others requiring a fair amount of effort. That said, each quest often provides pertinent details about who these spirits really are, and sometimes they'll call you over just to chat about what their life was like, the mistakes they made, the painful memories that still linger. It's pretty deep stuff, and the writing gives each character a fairly distinct personality, though some are admittedly far more interesting than others. In the end, our job is to fulfill the requests of those on board. The idea is that once they're ready, they can decide to leave through what's known as the everdoor. It's sort of like this final rite. Sharon describes it as being both the beginning and end of all things before disappearing through the door himself. The final few moments of a spirit's existence tended to reflect their overall demeanor, their outlook on life as a whole. All of their fears, their reservations suddenly come bubbling up to the surface, and all is laid bare. Throughout the entirety of the game, this process, though it remained the same for pretty much every spirit, felt wildly different each time. The things they say, the way some of them come to realizations right before that final moment of passing. Regardless of who you escort to the everdoor, it always ends the same way. Gwen's passing hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was the most impactful, far from it, but because on that same day, in the real world, I had lost my family cat, Ella, after 17 years. The cat who we found in our backyard trying to catch fish from our pond. The same one who went deaf in her left ear at a young age and had a slight head tilt as a result. Just gone. One of the taglines of Spiritfarer is, "Learn how to say goodbye." I wasn't there for Ella's passing, so in some weird way, when this happened, all of the emotions came bubbling up to the surface, and I felt like that was my chance to say goodbye. And in the end, maybe that was enough.